Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Real Estate Served on the Rocks, brought to you by Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective on YouTube. My name is Charlie Sardelli, and as always, I'm here with
a guy that is just flabbergasted by that intro. That was fantastic. So much energy.
Throw a little bit extra into
So
it,
much energy. Jameson Amros with Fathom Realty, guys, as always.
And guys, Oscar, back in the barrel today. Guys, don't forget, we post our episodes weekly on YouTube, and also you can catch us on iTunes, Spotify, all the major streaming platforms pretty much every Friday. I do apologize, last week's episode, I had some stuff go on with some airlines. Not gonna name them. I should, but I'm not going to. Spend an extra 2 days in New Jersey. Not something I ever want to do, ever. But I was there. Got to spend some extra time with my family.
At an airport that services really one major airline.
Yeah, exactly, right?
His whole entire goal is to unite the United States.
Exactly. I like that. It was good. And guys, don't forget, on this podcast, we bring you guys quality real estate information straight to the consumer, from news headlines, the market, and everything in between, specifically because we want you to be armed and ready in this crazy market that we've seen over the last year, 2 years, 3 years.
4 years, 5 years.
5 years,
6
right?
years, whatever it is.
And also, while we talk about real estate, we drink some bourbon.
We do.
And I'll tell you what, man, it was really cool. One thing, so I was away last weekend. I went up to Rhode Island, Block Island, and I went fishing with my uncle and some friends. Caught a 37-pound striped bass. It was pretty
That
great.
picture was gnarly.
It was awesome. We capped out, got 24 blackfish both day. So over 48 pounds of meat brought home between 6 of us. It was awesome. But the reason I talk about it is because one of the guys there was actually a bourbon connoisseur.
Yeah.
And like he just spends money on bourbon. And what was really cool, I was telling Jameson this before we started, is I got the chance to drink Pappy 10-year and Pappy 12-year. And I swear to you, the bartender did not know what he was doing, because we got that Pappy 12-year for $30 for the pour. And I'm talking, it was like the end of the bottle pour. So that on average is what, $75, if not over $100.
Oh, easily.
In some places, right?
Easily.
So it was really cool, because that's supposed to be like the golden goose egg of bourbon. There's some up here, and in the bourbon club. And I'll tell you what, man, I took a sip of the Pappy 12, and every part of me, every part of me, and I've talked about my hippie roots and how I don't like to spend money, was like, I want this to be shit. I want this to be like Blanton's, right? No. Oh my God. Just neat, no water, nothing. Amazing. Like, the complexity was great.
Oh, yeah.
Just the flavor all through, and the burn was almost non-existent.
Yep.
And we both looked at each other, and me and the gentleman that got shot with me, and we were just like, damn it, it's worth it.
Are you sure that it wasn't because it was $30?
I tried not to let it affect me, but at the end of the day, I took the sip. I had a moment with it. I took it out to dinner. Let it schmooze me a little bit.
Yep. Let it touch your leg.
Let it touch my leg, and then it took me home, man.
She touched my leg.
It took me home. It showed me a good time. I'll tell you what. Pappy 12-year, I can attest to it. It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
But, I mean, talking about Pappy, today's bourbon is kind of a staple, right? If you drink bourbon, a lot of people know Buffalo Trace, right?
I mean, you could say it is Pappy.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's
just
same distillery, right?
It's just the young Pappy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So
when
for
Pappy was Padre.
Grandpappy? Grandpappy?
Yeah,
his grandson.
Padre Trace.
Buffalo Trace is made in the same distillery as Pappy Van Winkle, Blanton's, and
George T. Stagg and E.H. Taylor and Weller Special Reserve and Weller 12. It's all in the same
distillery.
lineage. Yes.
The distillery, right?
It is the distillery.
What's funny is Buffalo Trace was kind of a sleeper cell for a while. This bottle here, and I remember back when I was bartending in Western North Carolina, this was the bourbon that the owner of the bar was like, "Hey, drink this." It was $20 a bottle at that time, and she was like, "This is going to be the most buttery, best bourbon that you're going to find for $20 to $25." And I got hooked on it. Buffalo Trace was my staple for the longest time once I grew up and got away from Jack and Woodford Reserve and all those other ones.
So the reason that Pappy is so good, do you know how long they age it for minimum?
No.
23 years. 23 years.
It's crazy. Yep. It's crazy.
No, this whole lineage of Buffalo Trace, the distillery, I think is still one of my favorites.
Yep.
It's one of the tried and true. You know, it also is. It was victim to the folklore, right? So if you go on Netflix and watch Heist,
or Neat. This is the distillery that's highlighted in Neat too.
Yes,
Trace.
correct. Like but Heist was the Pappy Van Winkle heist.
Yes,
and they detail and essentially, I mean, genius marketing, right? They made it rare on purpose.
Yeah, and
then when it got stolen, they just essentially flipped it on its head and said, "Hey, it got stolen because it's so good, and now it's hard to find." Like this bottle, it's $31, right? You would think that's in line with larceny or Elijah Craig, whatever. They're hard to find.
Yeah,
they are very, very hard to find.
Well, and I think that's because everybody knows.
Yes,
you know, everybody knows, especially once those two aired and everybody who drank bourbon was like, "Oh wow, Buffalo Trace." But again, screw you guys, because I was buying this bottle for $20.
I know, dude. I know.
Well, it was a hidden gem, and it was amazing.
It's still one of my favorite bottles for under $40.
Yeah, absolutely,
bar none.
Absolutely. And guys, we're gonna give you a fair overall, not our hey, I love this. This is a good one to have view, but we are gonna give. I love this.
Review. This is a good one to have.
We're gonna try and be as objective as possible.
Impartial, all right.
But the one thing that I enjoy the most about Buffalo Trace is, and it has been this way from the beginning for me, is butter. Yes. I always get butter.
Yep. And
in a smoothness kind of way rather than a flavor kind of a way. I'll be honest with you. This is since we started drinking on the podcast and doing the podcast, I've steered more away from Buffalo Trace, especially because I don't really drink as often anymore, other than here. And it's been interesting for me because having tried all these other bourbons, Buffalo Trace was my top gear. So I'm interested to taste this and actually give it a rating, right? Well, while we wait for the pour to open up a little bit before we take our first sip, the topic that we're going to cover today has been going on for about a year and a half already, 2 years now,
2021, I think,
right? And what we want to cover is something that we've talked about in the past, and we may call this a little bit more of a controversial episode because of what the nature of this lawsuit against NAR is. But virtually, the background of what we're going to talk about today is there's litigation, a lawsuit against NAR for...
What is NAR?
NAR is the National Association of Realtors. It is the board, the association that keeps realtors accountable and has us... That's where you see, if somebody says realtor, they have to go get certified
Realtor.
By NAR, because they're held to a certain standard, and you have to pass classes, you have to have an ethical class,
continuing education,
mm-hmm.
CE credits, and you're held to a higher standard because you can be held directly accountable by your local board. So in our case, it's SMEDRA, the South Metro Denver area, or DMAR, depending on in Colorado where we're from. So, continue.
So basically, what this lawsuit, and this is going to be very, very entry level explanation of it, but people are suing because they believe that realtors make too much money and commissions should be less than they are. And as you guys know, whenever Jameson and I are sitting here like this and Oscar's in the barrel, this is freeform, baby.
I may say some things today that, fuck it. It's freeform.
Yeah, it's freeform.
No, you hit it, right? So there's two real main issues or areas that are being argued. And number one, when we say that the commissions are too high specifically, and this is going to be important, it's that the buyer's agent commission is being paid for by the sellers in most, if not all, circumstances.
Yep.
And the second piece of this is they're basically asserting that the MLS, which is the multiple listing service, is seen as a conglomerate and doesn't give everyday individuals that want to sell or buy the right information. It's almost that NAR is hoarding the information.
Interesting.
So that they can quote unquote price fix, which we're going to talk about.
Yes, we're going to talk about
I don't have an opinion other than the fact that it's bullshit. And we'll go through why. I'm not going to just leave you guys with the fact that it's bullshit. I think there's actual real world ramifications.
Yes.
If this is successful, that is hilariously going to affect sellers as well, if not more than they really think.
Yes.
Because what's happening and what we're seeing is there's just a lot of misinformation, right?
100%. Well, and I mean, ultimately, and again, this is something that we try. This is why we have this podcast, right?
Right.
Is because we want to bring information. And I'm sorry, but the average consumer is extremely ignorant to real estate
Correct.
and real estate processes.
Yes.
Like,
And there's a specific reason why.
yeah.
On average, a human being will go through a real estate transaction from start to finish 3 times. Our life expectancy is what, 77 years?
Mm-hmm.
So 3 times in 77 years. We don't expect anybody to be all up in this information day in and day out, right? Like day in and day out. Yeah, the investors, obviously the agents, the realtors, property management companies, but by and large, you guys go through this 3 times in your entire life, right? If I were to, I don't know,
I was gonna say,
do
take it
anything
from-
3 times in my entire life, I have
take
no
it
idea
from
what
the
I was
two
doing,
guys
dude.
trying to build a real estate YouTube channel.
Yeah,
Right? Like
right?
we understand it's niche, right?
Right.
People are only going to search the information when they need it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, exactly to Jameson's point, that's why people are ignorant to the processes and how it works, right? So before we get too heated, let's go ahead and get this first sip in. Cheers. Yeah, see, man, just the nose.
Yep. It's that brown sugar.
Feels like home. But we're gonna be unbiased here. On the nose again, butter, caramel, a little bit of vanilla.
Yep.
Definitely a little bit more heat on the nose than bourbons around this level. But again, because of how young it is.
Correct.
In comparison.
I mean,
Far as
oh man,
yeah.
I get toffee on the back end that just kind of lingers.
Oh man, it's just that for me it's smooth. It's a sweetness at the back end. It's almost like a dessert after you
Yep.
take the sip, and it sits. And it doesn't coat your tongue. It doesn't burn your
No.
tongue. Like it's not like the syrup we talked
It
about.
just kind of sits in the back of the tongue, and you just enjoy it.
Yep. A little bit of chocolate. I'm
Yeah,
getting a little
chocolate,
bit of chocolate.
toffee. I get a little bit of like, I don't know, apricot, like right in the middle, like a little bit of fruit.
I was gonna say maybe a little forward for me is like the fruit.
Yeah, a little fruit. But yeah,
Spice up front.
that toffee and kind of chocolate finish at the back end is, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
Buffalo Trace, baby.
Welcome back, Buffalo Trace. Welcome back.
This is what's in the decanter 98% of the time. So yeah, let's in order to so Jameson and I don't go off the rails on you guys on the on the conversation, because we could do that from time to time. Basically, we want to kind of just break down. I know we said what it was about and what the basic questions are.
Yeah, the overarching theme that we want to talk about is twofold, right? Number one, people are saying that because of the multiple listing service that essentially brings together smaller brokerages listings all into one place, the plaintiffs are essentially saying that it leads to price fixing of commissions, not of houses, but of commissions.
Okay.
And because of that, they also believe that it has essentially looped the sellers of a house into paying not only the listing agent, but also the buyer's agent.
Yep.
Right. And we're going to kind of break that down because there's some misinformation we've talked about before, but I think it highlights in this specific area. And then, I mean, what I want to talk about honestly is let's say it does go through, right?
Yeah.
And there's 2 different outcomes that could happen. Number one, the MLS goes away.
Yep.
Okay. And then number 2, buyer's agents are no longer paid by the listing agent's brokerage.
Yep.
And what is that fallout? What could it potentially look like? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I wanted to go through
Okay.
to break it down for you guys. But
Yeah.
I think, again, the overarching theme is the way that real estate works in 98% of the United States and Canada, actually, is they use a multiple listing service. So if you guys remember back in the day, we've talked about this before, like go to the mountain towns and you go to like the Keller Williams office and they've got the magazines with all of the Keller Williams listings, right? Well, if I am not in that mountain town and visiting that specific brokerage, I don't know those homes exist, right?
Yeah.
I just don't. And that was the way it was for a very long time, right? And there's always been multiple brokerages. Keller Williams, there's Remax, there's Compass, there's Fathom, which we're part of, Berkshire Hathaway, like hundreds and hundreds, right? But their agents and the brokerages own the listings, right? So if I go out via Fathom and I have a listing, that listing is owned by my brokerage, with an MLS, we put that into the multiple listing service. In this case, we use RE Colorado here in Denver. And any agent that has access to that MLS sees my listing being advertised, can schedule showings, can look at information, so on and so forth.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
So the argument is that price fixes.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, in that vein, right? And I think it's funny if they want to say having the multiple listing service creates virtually a monopoly.
Right.
Right. What is it not the same thing as like Antique Roadshow?
Right.
Right. Like it's Antique Roadshow. Everybody knows that's where we get our valuations. That's great. They set the price on these things. So. Right. Is that not a monopoly? Yeah, other people can sell it. Just like,
Correct.
Hey, other people don't have to list on
Yes.
the MLS, but you're at a significant disadvantage because,
Yes.
as Jameson stated, not only do you get on a national, well, a statewide platform in states, but you get information, like quality checked information.
So you have verified information.
Verified, yeah,
That
by
if
state, county.
it is found as inaccurate, the individual that lists that property can now be held accountable.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so it becomes a thing of, at the end of the day, and this is something that I wanted to, talk about is, I asked Jameson the question: at what point, at what amount of money does a business have to make,
right,
in order for something like a commission, or how much money they're taking from you to just kind of be whispers in the wind, right? And what I mean by that is, you have realtors, you have photographers, you have, people who build custom woodworking tables, right? You see it on TikTok all the time.
Software companies, medical sales,
right? That these people, well, and that like the bigger ones, right? I'm talking about companies that have a specific face, right? Like one person.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And what I'm saying is, it's a lot easier for somebody to go, "Hey, man, I see you, and I know you're taking my money." So therefore, I don't like that you're taking my money.
Correct. Yes.
But perfect example, everybody has car insurance, right? And what I just experienced recently was a 50% jump in my annual premium. So I reached out, and again, not going to call out names, but they're supposed to hold me in their hands, And I reached out and asked them, "Hey, what the hell's going on? I didn't change anything, nothing updated." And what they said to me was, "Well, sorry, it's costing more for us to cover premiums at this time. So we're charging you more." Okay. And then I go, "Well, what are you going to do for me? What kind of discounts do I have?" "Sorry, we don't have any discounts for you." Okay. So now why isn't there a class action lawsuit?
Well, hey, can you just cancel your insurance?
Oh yeah, you're right. It's
right?
that easy.
You can cancel it and then just not have insurance on your car.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that how it works?
That's exactly how it works.
Right?
Right?
Especially if you have like a loan on your car.
Yes. Yeah.
Then it gets repossessed.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to talk about like racketeering,
Yeah.
well, you're saying that the banks are forcing people to get insurance on an asset because they kind of own that asset, which then forces you to get insurance, and then the insurance can turn around and go, "Hey, you know what? We're going to raise your rates by $100."
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah.
Annually, and you can't go then cancel it. I don't care. You can cancel and go somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
but all insurance companies follow each other as far as rates go. So you may get a little bit of discount here, which is not negotiable, but you have the choice to use somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
The MLS, what the argument is it forces individuals to use an agent to buy or sell a house because that is the only way they get access to the available properties. That's what the argument is.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's and at the same time, let's go back to Wild Wild West. Right?
That's the argument, though.
Right?
That's what it is.
And it goes, okay, that's great. So, hey, Jameson, does the MLS when you list require public remarks based on the property?
Yes.
Does it require for you to tell, like, how much square footage there is, if there's been any liens on the property, taxes, anything like that?
Yep.
Are you held accountable for that?
Mm-hmm.
If I just go to Joe Blow down the street and we have a bill of sale, that's a legal tendered bill of sale.
State of Colorado, as long as it's got signatures on it.
Right? So virtually what that means is people want to fight for the ability to get screwed on a deal. Oh, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this, right? Real estate in general is it shouldn't be, very emotional transaction, right? And I think you hit the nail on the head where people, when they buy or sell a house, especially when they sell a house, they watch their money disappear, right?
Yep.
And that's on purpose because, back in, I think it was 2017, 2018, I forget which administration it was. I know Trump had a piece of it and then Biden repealed it because he wants to do his own investigation. But it made the MLS disclose what the commission was, right? And then when we go to the closing table, there's line items that show the commission, right, for what's being said. So if I'm selling my house, I have line items that I have to go through to verify what my actual net proceeds are. And part of that is not only the commission to the listing agent, but the commission to the buyer's agent, because the listing agent splits that with the buyer's agent. And oh, by the way, the commission that you charge, or that I charge a seller, is negotiable. Right?
Hold on. I want that to be repeated, highlighted, bolded. Go. Say it again.
It is negotiable. Okay.
Negotiable.
So if we want to throw it up on the screen, maybe the definition of negotiable. What it means is, if you are using a product or service, you can negotiate, aka have a discussion between two individuals as to the value that you are willing to pay and the value that they are willing to give you based on price. That is what it is, right?
Well, and
so can you turn around and sell a house for $1 getting commission? You could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you? Probably not, because we put in a shit ton of work and marketing dollars and all sorts of different things. And just like any other profession, we charge for our expertise, our advice, our guidance, our contract knowledge, everything else. But there's a reason that you have flat rate listing fees where somebody goes, hey, I'm going to sell your house for 1%. Great. You can use those people. Are you going to have the best experience? I don't know. You can go to, a Jiffy Lube, or you can go to the house down the street that has 47 cars in the backyard. It might be $7 to change that oil, $100 at Jiffy Lube, but there's a reason that people choose Jiffy Lube over that person. Right? Like, that's what it is. And I think the argument of, well, you guys are holding out listings. The reason it's consolidated is what we touched on earlier. If it wasn't consolidated, it would be up to every single brokerage individually to list their homes on some sort of internet website. Now, I know what people are saying. They're going to say, fuck you guys. We have Zillow and Redfin. Fun fact, ladies and gentlemen, where do Zillow and Redfin get their information from?
If you look at a listing on Zillow, scroll down, maybe move your finger on the scroll button like 6 inches, and it'll say there, listing from MLS number 67796, whatever.
Correct.
Ari, Colorado at the bottom. They get all of their information from the MLS. So that's another point to bring up too is, yeah, this is great to have this, but again, the MLS is so intertwined into the real estate industry as a whole. You have multi-million-dollar companies that rely 45% of their business on the structure of an MLS, because these companies can guarantee the people that use them that the information is correct, it is trustworthy, right? And it just comes down to a point where now you're getting like, okay, cool. So if agents have the ability to negotiate, why does everybody pay different, different percentages? We have a standard in the industry, right? Most agents agree 5 to 6% is okay. And then, well, a lot of people don't know is that's split between the seller's agent and the buyer's agent, right?
Correct.
And that's where a lot of these people are up in arms and going, well, why is the buyer's agent getting anything? Well, because they have the client, they showed the property, they did the research on the property, they brought you the client so you could sell your house.
So yes, and there's a couple of statistics. I think they're a bit blown out of proportion, right? The reason that a listing agent is offering a buyer's agent compensation is to bring interest to the property. Okay, so in my head, I think this is a funny argument, right? Overall, what the argument is well, if all that does is it entices or encourages sellers to negotiate a higher listing commission. Because the adage is, well, if I see a house at 2.8% versus one that's giving a buyer's agent 2.5%, the buyer's agent isn't going to show their client the house that has the lesser commission. Number one, I say that's if you're doing that as an agent, get the fuck out of the industry.
Yeah, leave.
First off,
leave.
Fuck off.
Leave. You're service industry, folks.
I've sold Lennar new construction homes that pay me a 1% on a 12-month transaction that I had to argue with the sales agent, the construction crew, the soup, everything. The warranty person, over 12 months, I got paid 1% on a $500,000 home. That's $5,000. over 12 months. Break that shit down, right?
Yep.
Doesn't matter. If you're doing that, get out. I don't
Leave.
You are the problem.
Yep.
You are the problem. Look in the mirror. You're the problem. There is some data that says that the higher the buyer's agent commission, the faster the home sells. Ironically, it didn't show us when that data was from. I would argue right now, with the limited amount of inventory we are experiencing and will be experiencing, I don't think that matters much. Yeah. Okay? I really don't. I don't think it matters much. So to me, that's not really an argument because at the end of the day, again, it's negotiable, right? So if the seller goes, hey, here's the deal. I know you charge 6%. I'd like you to list my house for 5% because I want to make X amount of money on the proceeds. Okay. At that point, then a discussion takes place, and me as a listing agent will go, well, for 6%, here's everything you get. Here's the proof of concept, proof of work. Here's the marketing. Here's everything I'm going to be doing for you. If you don't believe that is worth 6%, then let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. And now it gives both parties a choice to go, you know what? I don't believe it's 6%. I want 5%, or I'm going to find somebody else to list your house. At that point, I can decide as an agent, okay, I'm either going to walk away because I know what my worth is and what I bring to the property and to my client, or I say, yeah, you know what? How about we do this? We'll go 5.3%. Just like, I don't know, you would negotiate the price on your fucking house when somebody makes an offer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
If you list at 600,000, somebody goes, hey, you know what? We'll offer 550. Does the seller get all up in arms?
Yeah.
Why?
Because
they didn't do anything to the house.
It's their money.
But they didn't do anything to the house.
But it's their money. I want.
Yeah, but they didn't. All they're doing is making on-time payments. Which, by the way, if you don't, your house gets taken away from you by the bank. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I need to make this amount. Okay. Well, did you do anything to the property? Did you add in, I don't know, Corian or granite or quartz or Italian marble from Tuscany?
Did you redo the cabinets?
You know what I'm saying?
Change
Like,
the front door.
at the end of the day, the negotiations on both sides. So as a seller, if you're getting frustrated that you're having to give away a percentage of your money, and we've talked about this before, don't use an agent.
Don't
For sale by owner.
do it.
Right?
And on average, for sale by owners, lose
More than what the commission is, 7
exactly.
to 10%.
7 to 10% of
Versus
the listing,
5.6%.
Right? And again, I know that once we post this and we clip it out, there's going to be a slew of you guys in the comments. And what I want to tell you is, come on, let's talk. I want to have this conversation.
Well, it's going to turn into the whole idea of real estate agents don't do anything.
Yep.
Right? That's just what it is. And again, the whole purpose is, are there people that can go through a real estate transaction from start to finish by themselves with no help whatsoever, or to maybe hire a lawyer at a hourly rate to help them just write the contract out? Sure. Like that's fine, right?
You know what
you can do that. What people don't understand is it is a service industry, and the people that want to use our services will pay for those services. You don't have to. There's nothing in the Constitution of the United States that says if you want to sell a piece of real estate, you have to use a realtor, right?
Nope,
Specifically, Jameson Armos, Fathom Realty. My phone number's down below. Anyway, there's nothing in there that says that. You don't have to use us, right? But it is a convenience factor.
Yes.
If you want to go on Zillow yourself, I just told you, Zillow pulls every single one of their listings from the MLS. So you don't need an agent to access the MLS.
Yeah.
You go on Zillow and Redfin, you set up your little alerts on what you're looking for, and you heart things and whatever, and it gives you an alert. This is a price drop. This is recommended. I get them day in and day out. I, as an agent, use Zillow and Redfin all the time to help my clients, right? Because I just like the app more. Our app sucks. It's shitty, right? It is what it is. But what I will do is I will then verify what Redfin has with the MLS because I know that it's accurate.
Yes.
And the world in which an MLS doesn't exist means that every individual brokerage is now responsible for the accuracy of their information. And there is a lot of agents that are individual that don't have brokerages. So now you're relying on individuals that can turn around and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to get in trouble. I know this is really a 3-bedroom, but I need people to come look at it. So I'm going to list it as a 4.5 or a 4-bedroom with 3.5 baths versus a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Or I'm going to list the square footage as finished, but the basement's actually unfinished. And then you as a consumer will go out there, and let's say you also don't want to use a buyer's agent, and you go look at this house, and now it's just 2 individuals fighting over the accuracy that they found in a magazine because there's not a centralized location for all this information to be verified, right? So just a couple of things to highlight. We're going to throw this graphic on the screen. But here is kind of a give and take of what the world looks like when we do have consolidated market information and what it doesn't. So you go from having the largest database of available homes to no centralized source of available homes. You have the most up-to-date home status information. You have outdated home status information. You go from maximized visibility of homes for sale, which means you as a consumer can search as many homes as you absolutely want. Again, using Zillow and Redfin because they pull from the other information. They don't have the capacity to reach out to every individual broker in the United States and find out what houses are listed. It would take way too much time. To fewer homes for buyers to choose from on real estate websites. What's that going to do? Well, it's going to probably make prices unaffordable, I would assume, right?
And if you live on the East Coast and want to buy a house in the middle of the country, good luck.
You better drive there.
Yep.
Right?
Drive to look at it.
Verified, trusted, detailed, and accurate property information versus unverified, inaccurate, and unreliable property information. Facilitate cooperation between buyer and seller brokers versus buyer and sellers would likely have to pay to list on the website, which means if you are a seller, you would have to then pay an extra fee to just get listed on a website, and you would be reaching half the contingency that you need to, which means your house is going to sell for less. Yep. That's important. Equal opportunity for all home buyers and sellers. I'm going to come back to this one. Residents without access to brokerages would have fewer options.
100%.
Right? If I want to move to Steamboat Springs, like Charlie just said, and we know work from home is going to remain a thing, migration is going to remain a thing, climate change is going to push people in different areas. How am I supposed to know what houses are available if I don't have a centralized source that I can look up via Zillow or Redfin if I'm moving from Colorado to South Carolina, right? And then the last one, level playing field between large and small brokerages, which that fosters competition and, again, gets rid of the idea of a monopoly, versus markets become broker controlled. So what that means is if I'm in a region where Keller Williams is big, they're going to have all the listings. So now if I'm a seller and I don't want to pay Keller Williams fee because now they can charge whatever they want.
Whatever they want.
Oh, you know what? Our brokerage is the biggest in the Southeast of the United States. For you to list on our website, it's $7,000. Well, you can go to the smaller brokerage and list it for $50. Nobody's going to see it.
Yep. Well, and the thing that I love about it, and you touched on it earlier, is that, we're on commission because we're not hourly. You guys, please, if we broke it down a little bit on the show before, you don't want us to be hourly.
No.
You don't. Because especially in states where the average home price is below $400,000, those agents are putting in way more hours than the commission that they're earning on that house.
Well, and think about it. Let's say we do go hourly and we do have a decentralized MLS system, right?
Yeah.
So we now have to drive around.
I'm charging you for that. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny to me because it's the same people that say, I want my money, that when you talk to them about the United States being capitalistic and a free market, they go, yeah, United States, America, free market. Okay, but when it affects your pocket, it's not right.
Correct.
You don't like it then.
Right.
Right? And it comes down to a point where you start questioning, like, hey, what do you want to? What's your point here? Are you trying to make a point that you want more money?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you're gonna make, if your agent, again, in a place that doesn't, you're gonna make an extra $5,000. That cool. But again, if you don't use an agent, that $5,000 that you're gonna save,
Correct.
you're gonna spend to market the property, to clean the property. And guess what? You're gonna have to find the cleaner. You're gonna have to find the worker,
The handyman, the roofing company,
the landscaping.
You have to take time to find those individuals.
And the thing that blows my mind is so many of these people, you'll be driving down the highway and you have this, we will market your home and only take 1%. How in the world do you think that these businesses are able to take 1%? What do you think that they're doing to you?
Cut cost.
Right? So, but again, business. This is not just a company that's going, I'm a magical, little leprechaun and I'm going to save you money. No, what they're doing is they're offering you lower on the house to make it more convenient for you to sell the house. And they're targeting you, bringing you in with, I'm only going to take 1%. Okay.
Or if you're talking about a service industry, right? Let's say you do have a brokerage that is very busy at 1%. How do you think their customer service is if you need something?
Exactly.
Right? If they have 50 houses listed at the same time,
you're not getting
what do you get?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And in order for me to make what I make now, if I listed at 1%, I'd have to sell 3 times as many houses, which is great. I could do it.
Yep.
But my customer service and my attention to detail is going to go through the window because I'm reviewing 30 contracts at a time and having 80. Like it's not a feasible thing. And then, by the way, the 1% pays the 1% to the listing agent, but still pays 2.5% to the the buyer's agent, which really now you're at 3.5%, 4% on any of those flat listing fees. So it's not actually 1%. That's a whole conversation. Yep. But that brings us to the next fallout piece of this, which is if this is successful and they rule that the seller does not need to pay the buyer's agent. Okay? Who pays the buyer's agent?
It's going to come down to the buyers.
The buyer.
And guess what? You guys are already struggling to come up with money to buy a house.
Hey, thanks for the layup. So, what Charlie just said.
Setting it up.
Oh, totally set it up.
Off the backboard.
Oh, totally set it up. I just got to find it. Keep talking. I'll get back to it.
But yeah, so while Jameson looks for that, I mean, that's again, guys, there's flip side to each coin, right? And how many people have gone with these businesses, these companies, and had horrible experiences,
right,
specifically because of the reason of attention,
yes,
detail, and again, a money-driven mentality.
Yes. So back to why it's bad if buyers have to pay their own buyer agent, right? Mm-hmm. One of the positive reasons that comes out of sellers paying both agents is because, especially now, it makes it cheaper for a buyer to get into a house. Okay? Mm-hmm. It just does, right? Yep. Because they don't have to pay the buyer's agent. It's built into the cost of the home, you could say, but realistically it's a market thing, so it's a little complicated. But if you want to make that argument, you can, that it's built into the cost of the house, right? So yes, technically, if you don't use a buyer's agent, whatever that percentage is, you might be able to mark down the price, whatever, okay? But now let's say I am a buyer and I don't want to work with an agent. We've had this happen, and I've only seen it happen successfully with no hiccups like twice. Buyer comes in, you're listing a house. They say, hey, we just want to work directly with a listing agent. Okay, why? Well, because I can usually negotiate a discount. The listing agent doesn't have to pay a buyer's agent, so I can usually take that extra 2.5% to 2.8% off the price of the home, and I can get a deal. Okay, awesome. So what happens is the buyer then starts talking to the listing agent. Well, the listing agent has a fiduciary duty because we are realtors associated with NAR and Denver Metro Association of Realtors and all these different things. My fiduciary duty is to the seller. I cannot, in good conscience or ethically or technically, like legally, give advice to the buyer. Yep. Because I am signed with the seller. The way I can do that is if I turn myself into a transaction broker, right? Dual agent in some states. There's certain states that don't even allow that because it gets you into a mess of trouble. And essentially you become a paper pusher, but both parties want your advice, right? The seller's going to say, should I do this on the inspection? You can say, I don't know. Do you want to do this on the inspection? The buyer says, should I ask for this on the inspection? You go, I don't know. Do you want to ask for it on the inspection? What do you think this house is worth? I don't know. What do you think this house is worth? Now what happens, right? Now you're just in this mess and there's contracts involved. Well, what do you think about these exclusions? Do you think this is a mistake? I'm not really sure. Okay, right? What if it's a security system? What if it's appliances? And let's say as a buyer, you're not using an agent and you sign a contract and you thought the appliances were included, and all of a sudden we get through, the seller took the appliances because they were not included, and now you're throwing a fit. Who are you going to bitch to?
Oh man, you know what, dude? I bought this house specifically because I wanted to build an accessory unit on my property in order for my mother to move in because she's been struggling, and I'd really love to have her here, but I bought this house and the codes say that I can't build here. Yep. What do I do? Well,
sell the house.
Sell it.
Right.
Yeah.
The other piece of this is financially. Okay. So on average, the typical American household has an average amount in their bank accounts. What do you think that average amount is?
$5,000.
$5,300.
God, I'm
woo. Okay. $5,300. What's the average down payment on a house at 3.5%?
12,
13,
15,
14,
yeah.
$15,000. Okay. So now let's say I have to pay a buyer's agent. And let's say I need to negotiate and I say, well, I'll pay you 1% of whatever the purchase price is of this house. Okay. Because that's what you have to do. Or a flat fee.
Yep.
Something.
Or hourly.
What?
Or hourly.
Or hourly, right? So now what's happening is from a buyer standpoint, now I'm shelling out more money. Not only do I need to cover closing costs and a down payment and potentially appraisal gaps, depending on where the market goes, but now I got to pay somebody to help me get into a house where we know that credit card debt just hit $1 trillion, right?
Yep.
Average household is $5,300 in their bank, which by the way, that's paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
So let's say now you've got buyers that are so financially strapped that they cannot pay a buyer's agent, therefore are not comfortable buying a home because there are, I mean, every time I sell a house, I said minimum 5 disclosures that have to be looked over, minus the contract to buy and sell, along with the inspection and the appraisal period and the title search and all of these different things, right?
That, again, are set in stone by.
Okay.
Yep.
Right? So now the buyer goes, well, I'm just going to rent. Okay. So now you're going to rent. Now every buyer is going to rent. So now where does demand go? falls off a cliff, right?
Nowhere there. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now the seller is complaining that they're not making enough money and we're paying too much commission. Well, that house that you just listed at $600 because there are no buyers available, because nobody wants to pay somebody to help them go through this transaction because now they're being forced to, much like the sellers think they're being forced to pay commission. Anyway, different story. Now your $600,000 house, because there's no demand and inventory creeps up, is worth $500,000.
Yep.
So congratulations, you just lost $100,000 because you didn't want to pay $13,000 to a buyer's agent.
Yep.
Right?
It's
It's economics. That's it.
100%. But it also just comes down to the mind mentality, right? You know, call JAG Wentworth, they 77K. Like, it's my money and I want it now.
Correct.
Right? And because ultimately that's what it is we talk about it all the time. This is one of the largest bits of money that normal people are going to see in their lifetime, right? And to pass off a check, or buyers don't even have to pass off the check, but to pass off that, it hurts. I get that. I understand that you're seeing it go, but again, what you're paying for is so much more valuable on just the services versus being able to sell the home. You know, and this market is a perfect example, because at the end of the day, with the limited amount of inventory that we have, if you're a buyer and you're coming to a house, and we didn't talk about this, you're coming up in competition on a house. The other thing that keeps the competition fair across the board is the fact that the seller is going to pay every single one of these buyer's agents the exact same thing. So nobody gets
Correct.
a fair shot. It's not unfair. And by the way, we can't collude like that. Because of the association, because of what we have, I can't strictly say, hey, if you're not using this agent, I'm going to charge you extra. Mm-hmm. I can't legally do that. Agents can't legally do that.
Correct.
But if we go back to the Wild Wild West, where there is no regulation to it, which is virtually what this litigation is pushing, you guys are screwed.
Yeah.
Because then I can now corner the market and go, yeah, I'm only going to sell this house to this agent. Yeah, but he's going to charge me $5,000 and this other agent's only going to charge me $1,000. I don't care. I want you to use that agent because that's the agent I want. And you can't do anything about it.
Yep.
Like, it's one of those things where I get it. Like, I understand. Like, the money moving hurts a little bit, but it's what you get for the cost.
Well, and it's funny because this all started as people started to see these home values rise. Right?
Oh yeah.
And now all of a sudden, like, if I had a house that was $400,000 and I paid a 5.6% commission or whatever it is, you know, that's X amount. Call it $30,000 roughly. And now all of a sudden, my house 2 years later is worth $680,000. Mm-hmm. Well, in my head, I made $180,000. But now you're telling me I have to pay the same percentage, not $180,000. The real estate agent didn't do anything to make my house worth $680,000.
Yep.
Cool. Neither did you.
Yep.
You just lived there.
Yep.
That was it. And you are
nothing.
now talking about unrealized gains in an argument to say, well, this is not fair and they're paid too much and blah, blah, blah. Now, again, we've said this before, right? Are there realtors and agents that are not worth a damn, that are shitty, that are unscrupulous?
Ooh,
right?
There he is.
Yes, there are. We've dealt with them. Charlie could tell a story right now, honestly, if you wanted to, but we don't have time. But that's what the board's there for, so that you, as a consumer, can report it.
Yep.
And you can get them out of there. And I'll tell you what, as this market gets tougher, you're going to see a lot of agents, a lot of the ones that aren't in it for the right reasons, drop out. Right? They just will.
Yep.
Doesn't mean that your take-home proceeds should change because you feel like somebody else is making too much money.
Yes.
Like,
but
I'm sorry.
Again,
at the end of
that's
the day,
why I go back.
do I think, I don't know, dude. UPS, okay? UPS drivers.
Yeah.
They're union, just negotiated. You can make up to $170,000 as a UPS driver, okay? To deliver packages. And my uncle was a UPS driver for a very long time, respected the grind, respected the hustle. Is it $170,000, $180,000 job? I don't know. I was never part of it. I'm not mad about it because at the end of the day, if I'm that mad, I'll go out and I'll get hired by UPS and I'll go be a driver.
Yep. Well, and that to my point again, it comes back to the like, at what point does the business get large enough to where you don't care? Right. Because you see it so often, and I mean, like, photographers. Any of my photographer friends out there, how often do you hear, well, I can go over here because this person's going to charge me less? Cool. Are they going to spend 5 hours editing your photos?
Right.
Are they going to make sure that they have the right lens and aperture ISO for the photo and where you are? No, you're paying for a specialty, right? And it's so much easier for people to look at an individual
Correct.
that's making money
Yes.
and go, I don't want you to make that money. But now take the individual away from it, and you're dealing with a corporation that
Correct.
you can't talk to.
Right.
You're going to call, they're going to hang up the phone. They're not even going to answer you.
Exactly.
Right? And so, again, it just comes down to the point of like, people are going to complain just regardless of what happens.
Because it's an emotional transaction. That's literally what it is. And it hits their pockets.
Yep.
And that's where all this is coming from. But again, my thought is, two things happen, right? So if the buyers have to get paid by the buyer's agent has to get paid by the buyer. Well, that agent's got to hang his license somewhere. So those fees are going to be higher. So that means what they're asking from the buyer is going to be probably similar to what it is now.
Yep.
The only difference is now the seller doesn't have to pay for it. But again, if the buyer can't afford that fee, then the buyer's not going to go to that house.
The house isn't going to sell.
It's not going to sell.
Exactly.
And then you're going to take the price drop anyway because your house is sitting on the market for 75, 80 days.
Yep.
Combine that with the fact that now if it's not a centralized database and I'm an individual that can't afford a buyer's agent, how am I going to find your house?
Yep.
I can drive around. Now gas is $4 a gallon, so that's not going to be a thing. Well, I can browse on the web. Well, you can't use Zillow and Redfin because they're not going to
have
they're
the
going to
inventory.
consolidate all that shit because that's their entire business model, and it's impossible for them to do so right now, right?
Unless they charge you buku bucks.
Exactly. And then you're also going to have people that are going to refuse to list their properties as sellers because if it's not not a mandate, I don't want to say a conglomerate that's been put together to give kind of free market access, the sellers, you took a hit on you took the win on not having to pay your buyer's agent. But if you're in a small market and Remax is the only place in that small market that lists properties and you want to sell your property, now you have to pay a premium. So what if I didn't have to pay this person $10,000 or $5,000, $10,000, but I got to pay this website $5,000 and it's only going to get blasted to this very specific area, in which case now I'm going to lose $15,000 on the sale of my house because I don't have enough interest. Cool, you saved 10 grand, you lost 20.
But and again, the other thing that we had that we really haven't, I feel like, driven home, as we mentioned, percentage on commission is negotiable.
Correct.
Jameson, is there a cap on that percentage?
No.
Oh, so wait. So what you're telling me is, now, if that doesn't change, along with the fact that the seller pays the commission, now you can have these large companies, Remax, that do have resources, say, okay, we're going to charge you 10%. Because we have to pay to market, we have to pay for the website, we have to pay for all this because the MLS is not there. Like, and it's just so funny to me that like it's two people who went, you took my money, that have now been held up for the last 2 years.
Blows my mind.
And it's projecting to last at least another 3 until there's a conclusion.
Blows my
so
mind.
these people are now spending money, the money that they complained about losing,
Right.
to fight this.
Well, think about it like, shit, dude. Think about it like Expedia, right? So what has Expedia done to the travel industry? It has forced the big companies, United, Delta, Frontier, whoever, to now get aggressive to win back customers.
Yep.
Because there is a centralized area that I can search any flight anywhere at any time, right? Well, it gets more eyeballs onto those flights. It benefits everybody involved, including the consumer.
Yep.
That's it. Oh, by the way, if you go on Expedia and you're not in incognito mode, and you do 2 searches for the same destination, guess what happens?
Well, do they sell your data?
And then all of a sudden, the next time you look, the price is up. It's weird.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's complaining about that because it's not a face.
Exactly.
We don't do that.
Exactly.
The price of the house doesn't change no matter how many. You can look at the same house on Redfin, on Zillow, on Trulia, on the MLS, on homes.com, realtor.com, and it's always the same price no matter what. It's a commodity. It's an asset, right? You guys want to get mad, go talk to Expedia or Kayak. And I've seen this. Like, you can literally look at the same flight on 2 different days for the same date, and all of a sudden it goes up. It goes up. It goes up, right? We don't even have that problem.
No.
You guys are just mad. And again, if you're mad, I get it. Like, I'm not trying to call anybody out. I would just encourage you to then be a part of the population that sells for sale by owner and pay the MLS to list your house, which you can do. And then you can negotiate everything from that point on, from the start to the finish. You handle your showings. You get it on showing time. or on Broker Bay. You handle the phone calls, you handle the questions, you figure out your title company. Your title company calls and says, hey, there's an HOA lien on this property. I need you to go look it up. You go do that. You negotiate the price. You look at the inspection objections. You type up inspection. Oh, you can't do that? Cool. Hire a lawyer. They can do that. Again, it'll be cheaper than hiring a real estate agent. Promise you. Right? But what is your time worth? And what is the protection worth? What is the advocacy worth?
Yep.
Right?
I mean, there's some clients that don't even want to give you what they want in a house.
No.
Just like, hey, help me find a house. Okay, what are you looking for? Well, I mean, 2-bed, 3-bath. Okay, cool. What kind of acreage do you want?
Right.
Do you want, do you want
Where?
a 2-car garage? Do you want to be able to park? How big do you want do you want a backyard? Do you want it to be rocks? Do you want your backyard to just be rocks? Because I've seen that before. Or, how many stories of the house? Do you want a ranch? You're like, people don't want to do that.
Right.
And that is where, again, realtors, real estate agents,
Yep.
realtors specifically come into play because, again, held accountable. And that's ultimately how it has to be.
There's another reason I think people overlook because it's not necessarily a quantitative thing. But think about this, right? We've talked already about how emotional a real estate transaction is. If you're not an investor and you're buying a single family home for you and your family and you're selling a single family home because you're upgrading, downgrading, moving, whatever, extremely, extremely emotional. And I can't tell you guys how many times I've had a seller that I'm representing that I've had to pump the brakes on during a transaction, okay? Because they're upset about what came up on the inspection report, or they're upset about something that the buyer said on a Nest Cam while they were touring the house or whatever, okay?
Yep,
now imagine you've got that emotional side. Then you've got a buyer who's desperate to look for a house in a low inventory market, needs to move because they're 8 months pregnant and they need an extra bedroom, and the husband just got a new job that has him work from home and they need an office. And you just let those two people go at it and figure out how to do a real estate transaction, the murder-suicide rates would go through the roof.
Whoa. HGTV.
You know what I'm saying?
HGTV. I got a pitch idea for you. What if you did an entire show series where you just pluck 2 people off the street and had them sell and buy a home?
Right. It'd be a bloodbath.
That would be amazing.
It would be a bloodbath.
That would be on par with like the survival shows.
It would be like Celebrity Deathmatch, right? But real estate
real
wise.
estate.
But it would. Like, think about it, right?
Absolutely.
Now there's no buffer. It's not, hey, can you tell them this?
Yep.
It's, I'm going to call this person. And I've had clients, no lie, who have said, I will just call them directly. No. Please, God, no.
Do that.
You do not understand what that is going to entail. Like, it would be, excuse my lack of vocabulary, a shit show if it turned into 2 people just bartering over a fucking house with everything else that's happening.
Bro, have you looked at Facebook Marketplace?
Oh my God! Look at next door. Just look at next door. Look at next door. That's literally it.
Yeah, like
right?
next door. Even
I live in a living hell because you can't shut your dogs up at 3:00 in the morning. God damn it, Janice! I'm gonna come over there with animal control. I'm gonna take it.
This is a wild.
That's just dogs barking.
Yes.
And next door goes like, go look at next door. Go look at the majority of human beings on the internet, and then ask yourself: is it a good idea for those same human beings to directly negotiate with each other to buy and sell a home that they've lived in for the last 20 years? Just ask yourself that question.
I feel like if you watch the news regularly, humans have been displaying the fact that they can't communicate effectively.
I'm just running through, like, I'm running through scenarios right now, like a final walk.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, this carpet isn't vacuumed. And then they call up the seller and they're like, this is fucking bullshit. And the seller's like, fuck you, I'm not selling my house anymore. And they're like, well, you can't do that. And then they're looking around for answers and they're like, oh wait, we don't have an agent or an attorney or anything to tell us what to do. We're just going to fist fight.
Yep.
And it turn into a cage match. Whoever wins gets the fucking
Take
house.
10 paces.
You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, it would be wild.
Yep. I would pay to see it.
It would be wild.
I would pay to HGTV.
I think we should.
I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna call the pitch because that would
wild.
be a show.
But that is the future that you guys are envisioning if this stuff comes to fruition. It is, right? And yes, it's an extreme example, but I also look at it as a very slippery slope. And some of this is feasible.
But again, it's a web. If this was 50, 70 years ago where it was just being established and coming up, cool, we can restructure. You have an entire industry.
If I'm on the Oregon Trail and I'm like, I like this cabin, and then Joe Bob's like, oh, okay, cool, I want to move out of this fucking place anyway.
Yep.
You go, cool, here's a piece of paper, 8 sheep and my daughter. I'm out.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
But now you got HOAs, you've got mechanics liens, you've got bankruptcy, you've got divorce proceedings, you've got court orders, you've got all this different stuff that's involved in a real estate transaction.
Yep.
And you need 2 parties that are fiduciarily bound to their respective clients to make sure that everybody gets what they want and nobody gets screwed.
Yes.
That's what you need. And then you need an overarching system to regulate that because you want to make sure that as you are buying the most expensive asset you will in your life for the most part, that it's accurate, dude.
Yes.
It's accurate. Like, that's what you need. That's it.
Absolutely. Lovely conversations, I'll tell you what. And I mean, guys, please comment. Come at us. Give us a call. I would love to talk to you about this because this is a conversation that I would say I have at least once a month, maybe twice a month. Like, oh, well, agents are pointless. Okay. Like at this point, then you start providing the facts and the information, and oh, okay, all right, and they back down, right? And this will be a forever fought battle because one individual is making money off of another individual.
Yes.
And that's just how the world turns. It's how it works. Understandable. But at the same time, like, I'm sorry. I said it earlier, 90% of the population of the United States is completely ignorant to the happenings and the process of real estate.
I can't get this brawl in my head happening in the living room because, like, the seller decided at the last minute to take a TV that was wall mounted, and because it was attached to the property, it was included in the inclusions, but they didn't look it over. And then, like, you got two people just over an 85-inch OLED because it's a $3,500 television, and then the TV breaks in half, and it's like, well, who's fucking responsible for this? And then you and I are on the sidelines drinking Buffalo Trace, going, don't know.
It's great.
Do you guys need some water? You want a break? No. All right, cool.
Oh man, wonderful. All right, Jameson, what else you got for him?
No, I think that's it, man. This episode was not, obviously we're realtors, right? And we have our own opinion. And there's certain things that I love to bring as much unbiased information as I can. This one, though, has so many ramifications to the marketplace as a whole, specifically home buyers and home sellers, right? Like, here's the deal, guys. I think between Charlie and I, we have enough requisite skill sets to go find a job and do whatever we want and be successful. I do this and he does this because we enjoy helping people navigate one of the most complicated transactions that they will ever have. Okay?
Working with a young couple right now that is expecting a baby in November, and the look on their faces when I told them that they have the ability to get into a place and they don't have to rent somewhere for $2,800 a month, that is why I do this job.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, it is, right? Like, I helped a gentleman going through a nasty divorce to get out of his house and close that chapter of his life. Like, there's reasons. Do we get paid well for what we do? Absolutely. I would encourage you, if you look at this and go, man, I'd like to make X amount of money off of this home sale, then become a realtor.
It's a $350 course here in Colorado, guys. But guess what? It's on you to finish that course.
Correct. So it's on you. And I'm not trying to harp on this, but at the same time, like, there are just certain things that I think are driven by ignorance that I have to call out. And I think this is one of them, right? Do I think there's shitty realtors in this industry? Yes. I've worked with them. And yes, they're fucking horrible. But if myself or the client they're working with reports them, they get held accountable, plain and simple, right? At the end of the day, as a consumer, you guys, and we've talked about it, right? You guys have to vet who you're working with, ask for reviews, ask for referrals, really ask the tough questions about how an agent works and what their communication style is like and experience and all these different things, and then make that choice, right? And at the end of the day, you guys have to understand you have the choice to just not use us. That's it. And there are people that I've met that have the capacity to do that and do it successfully and make money on their house and sell it and not be emotional, whatever. I speak about the majority. And the majority either cannot or they will not.
Or have not had the means to learn appropriately to perform it.
And what do we say, right? On average, you go through a real estate transaction in your entire life three times. So there's just no way that you guys can have the same skill set, knowledge, market background, etc., that somebody that's in the industry day in and day out does, which is okay, right? That's why I don't change my own fucking oil in my car, guys.
Well, I mean,
I will pay somebody for it. Could I do it? Yeah, give me a YouTube video and I could probably figure it out.
I just picture like Tony Hawk walking up to somebody with a skateboard and be like,
dude,
hey, do a kickflip.
Right? It might take me 4 hours and I might stain the shit out of my garage, but God damn it, I'll change the oil. Or I can go to a professional and understand that he's going to do this, plus check fluids, plus do this, everything else, 100 point, whatever it is. And I'm secure in my decision. Did it cost me $100 when it could have cost me $37? Yes. But do I know when I get in my car I'm good? Yes. Have I also ran into shitty oil change companies? 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Do I go back to those people?
No.
No. Do I refer them? No.
Because
that's
it's your choice.
That's the beauty of a free market and a capitalistic society is you guys can choose whoever the fuck you want. What you need to understand is you will still have this choice if all this that we talked about goes down, but those choices are going to be A, severely limited, B, severely influenced. And now all of a sudden you're going, well, yep, I got my wish. I just saved 10 grand, but now I'm pigeonholed into using somebody that I don't choose.
Yep. All right. I think this is a good time to move into the one rock takeaway for the episode. I'm gonna
one rock bash somebody in the head.
I'll take it first.
All right.
My one rock takeaway for this is a scenario. Okay. So
A scenario.
A scenario. So
I'm excited.
let's say you have a craft beer or a bourbon that you guys like a lot, and you've been drinking it for 5 years, and the cost
Like
has
just
been
one bottle?
well, multiple.
brand.
You like
Like
the
a brand?
brand, yeah,
Got
I
it.
like the brand,
Got it.
right?
So brand.
So brand.
Yep.
And now that brand all of a sudden gets bought out by Anheuser-Busch, a huge,
InBev.
right?
Because I think InBev
InBev?
owns Anheuser-Busch.
Okay, yeah, okay, InBev, right?
Yep.
Is the first thought in your mind, wow, this is going to get so much better after they buy it? Or is the first thought, uh-oh,
Sell out.
this stuff might get worse? And if that's your answer, reconsider how you think about what's going on with the whole NAR commission situation. It's my one rock takeaway.
I like it. I like that. That was a good metaphor. That was good. Man, I don't know how to follow that
Thanks.
without getting angry.
Yeah, right. For those of you not on video right now, the pondering is
Yeah.
real. It's
I mean, it's a common theme for me, right, in my life when I talk to people about large concepts. I just want you guys to take a step back and look at a real estate transaction as a whole, not from your specific buy and sell, but for the market as a whole, right?
look at the transaction, not the paycheck.
I don't even say that. I would say look at the big picture, right? Like everybody's goal is to increase value in a home. Why? Because it is the one asset that you will ever have. Check me on this. You will ever have that you can gain value from while living in it.
Just sitting
Okay?
and doing nothing.
While living in it, unless some weird shit happens with the car market, okay, and you're living in your car, and for some reason your 1987 Tercel is like now worth $30,000, okay, this is the only asset you're ever going to have that not only can you enjoy the benefits of it immediately and live in it, but it's going to grow in value. And what I want to say is when you look at realtors, okay, our goal is to get you as much money as possible. By doing that means we want to sell your house for as much as possible. That in and of itself means that we want to bring the price of your home as high as possible, which is increasing your value. And if I increase your value, what do I do for the rest of the neighborhood with similar size houses? I increase their value. What happens if I continue to let this be a free market and to foster competition? It is only healthy for you guys. There is nothing good that I have seen, and I've been researching this now for like a month, just trying to figure out the ins and outs, that I have seen from a homeowner standpoint that benefits by lowering commission or negating buyer's commission or getting rid of the MLS. I don't like short term. Yes. In one transaction, that's cool, dude. Like the one out of the three that you're going to have in your life, if you're going to save yourself 15 grand because of this, that's great. Right. But think about now your kids, think about your grandparents, think about when you're old and you want to all of a sudden sell your house because I don't know, you mismanaged your funds, your 401k went to shit. And the only thing that really appreciates year over year is land because you can't make more of it. And now all of a sudden, because of this decision now, in 20 years, you've actually lost $100,000 on your house and you were relying on that to fund your retirement or you were relying on that to pass it down to your kids so that they had an asset. Like there is so many more far-reaching ripples that will happen if something like this goes down. And I want you guys to just take a step back out of your own fucking shoes, look at it holistically and go, you know what? Maybe that's something I should consider. Don't tell me I'm right or wrong, right? This is an opinion. This is my opinion. This is Charlie's opinion. You guys have your own opinions. But do the research and look at it outside of the individual standpoint and see what you guys come up with.
Yeah. Whew, what an episode.
Thank God we had some Buffalo Trace. Man.
Lovely.
Last bottle, too.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. Last bottle on the shelf. Gotta love it. So I think it's time to move into the bourbon review.
And Charlie, give us a rundown. What does our rock rating mean?
Our rock rating is on a scale of 1 to 10, and the whole idea behind it is the lower the number, the better the bourbon. The higher the number, the worse the bourbon, because the more water, more rocks that you got to put into a bourbon, most likely the worse that bourbon is. So,
Or the just harsh that bourbon is, because you have your 135
but
proof.
See, that I had 135 proof the same weekend that I had the Pappy.
Yeah.
And it's funny, a group of 6 guys, obviously all experienced bourbon drinkers. If somebody's buying a bottle that's 1 out of 50, 135 proof, and everybody at the table took a sip of it. First sip, there was not one silent mouth at that table because everybody was, "Ooh, it's hot," right? And so it's like, it just comes down to the thought of, again, to each their own,
Yes.
right? And everybody's going to enjoy what they enjoy, how they enjoy it, especially when it comes to something like bourbon. But for Buffalo Trace, I mean, and again, this is trying to remove myself from my personal experience and stuff like that. I think that Buffalo Trace, as we talk about it, normally like intro bourbons, right? If you were to put this in a decanter and take it somewhere, you and your friends would be able to have a good time, whether you are an experienced bourbon drinker or you drink bourbon rarely. Somebody who drinks bourbon rarely, if you bring this to them and they taste it and they don't see the bottle, they're gonna feel regal. They're gonna feel like they're having a good experience with a bourbon, right? And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna take another sip, kind of let it simmer a little bit before I give it the rating, because again, I want to be unbiased with it, because I do love Buffalo Trace, and it is a staple for me. It's honestly, I would say this is the bourbon that got me into drinking bourbon, right? So I'm gonna take a sip. I'm gonna sit with it for a minute, but I'll let you talk for a bit.
So I'm glad you said that. And shout out to JC Ortega, Metro 5280. This is also, and I've told this story before, right? Like, and for those of you guys who don't know, we'll get a little personal here, just because we're drinking Buffalo Trace. But JC Ortega, he was my business partner, my best friend for 17 years. Passed away in November. If you guys have been watching the podcast for a year, you've seen him on a lot of the episodes up until November, and we took a little bit of a break. But him and I started drinking bourbon because we were big IPA drinkers. And God damn it, IPAs just make you so full. Mm-hmm. And the hangover the next day is rough. And we got the idea, drunk one night on IPAs, and we're like, we need to become bourbon and whiskey drinkers. So we started to put this plan in place on how to become a bourbon whiskey drinker. So we started with cheap bourbon and whiskey, Jack Daniels, I think Elijah Craig. Larceny was one of the ones that we tried, Gentleman's Jack, and we would put rocks in them. We actually started with just straight water. Like, I'd fill up like this much and then do half water, half whiskey to just get my taste buds. Mm-hmm. And we would do it. We lived down the street from each other, five houses down. And we would do it like multiple times a week for the sole purpose of just getting us each other to like bourbon, right? Mm-hmm. So we started getting less and less water. Then it was like, ice cubes, like Sonic ice cubes. Then it was like regular ice cubes. Then we started trying the balls of whiskey. This is probably over a 3-month period. And then one day he got his hands on Buffalo Trace, and we poured it. And I was like, let's just pour it neat and see how we like it. We poured it neat. We were over in his basement watching, this might have been actually during the last World Cup. Not this last one, but the one before that. So 5 years ago. And tasted it neat. And the first sip, we kind of looked at each other. We're like, we fucking made it.
Did we do it?
We fucking made it. And I looked at him, I go, do you like this? He goes, I fucking love this. I'm like, dude, this tastes so good to me. Mm-hmm. He goes, this tastes so good to me too. And since then, we had been Buffalo Trace, E.H. Taylor, Eagle Rare, Weller connoisseurs. And this was the first bourbon that we drank neat. And we were like, we fucking made it. Yep. We did it. 6 months later,
that's awesome.
We're actually bourbon drinkers. So this is tough for me because it's got a sentimental place.
Yep. So I'll add to that.
Yeah.
I'll add to that. For me, when I first started drinking Buffalo Trace, have you ever heard of Baron-Jäger or Baron-Jäger? It is a honey liqueur from Germany.
Yeah.
It stands for bear hunter.
Okay.
So it's looks clear. It's pretty syrupy. I would do a pour of Buffalo Trace with a little float of Baron-Jäger. That is how I got into bourbon, because
okay.
it's a little sweeter on the forehand. But combining the two with the nutty flavors, the chocolate, the butter, it got to a point where I was like, wow, I'm drinking this. I'm drinking it neat, but this is a cocktail. This is good. And then eventually the Baron Yager just fell off.
Yep.
And I was left with the Buffalo because that's what it does.
Yeah.
It gives you an opportunity to sip through, enjoy it. It doesn't hit you in the face with the ethanol. I'm going to take a jump and, again, trying to remain unbiased, trying to take experience out of it, especially compared to the bourbons that we've drank. Don't forget that price for the bottle plays into it, because you said $32, right? At $32 for the taste, I'm gonna give it a 4 point. I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
Okay.
Leaning more towards a 5.
Okay.
Only because, again, price point is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
The flavors are definitely there, and again, it's very good for intro bourbon drinkers. But in comparison to some small batches and other bourbons, Buffalo Trace definitely does what it has to do. It delivers on what it is, but it does leave a little bit of complexity to the guessing game.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think obviously from a name standpoint, like that's everybody loves Buffalo Trace, and as far as I'll do 2 ratings. Number 1, bourbon's under $40.
Oh yeah,
this is the best bourbon you
yes,
can have.
Absolutely,
$40.
hands down. If you don't want to spend money on bourbon, but you want to get a good bourbon, Buffalo Trace is it.
Yep,
hands down.
I honestly, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, the flavor profile reminds me of a less complex Dexter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and Dexter was 1.5.
Yeah.
And I buy that bottle every time I fucking see it. It's so goddamn good.
Yep.
This is like halfway there, but it's also $31.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, right? The interesting thing, we'll have to do this, because I've done this in Missouri with my buddy Joey, JC's brother. We did a blind taste test of Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, Weller, and E.H. Taylor. Okay. And if you guys don't know the lineage of Buffalo Trace, you essentially, as you go up in price, it's essentially Buffalo Trace longer aged with a little bit more specifics in the barrels and select barrel and whatnot. So you can go from Buffalo Trace to Eagle Rare to either Blanton's or E.H. Taylor. Yep. Then you got Weller, which Weller is actually technically the beginnings of Buffalo Trace. So Weller is like the base.
Yep.
And we rated this higher than all of them, which is really weird, right? But yeah, for under $40, best bourbon you can get, I think personally that I've had. If you guys have suggestions, let us know.
So what's your number?
My number? My personal number?
Your number for the bourbon rock rating.
3.75.
I like it.
3.75.
Yep, that's a good one. That's
3.75.
Good way to go. Good way to go.
I think it's because I'm thinking of like the larcenies.
Yeah.
Right. And I think Elijah Craig, we rated it like a 4-ish, 4.5. I think this is better.
Okay.
I don't think it's worlds better, but I think it's the complexity and the way that the toffee stays on the back of your tongue. And I think it's 45%. So it's 90 proof versus 80 proof. And I think Elijah Craig and Larceny are 80 proof.
Yeah.
So you got a higher proof that I think has more complexity and flavor. So I'm going to go under a 3.75.
I like it.
Yep.
I like it.
Yep.
Hell of an episode today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, you can catch us every week on our YouTube channel, Living in Colorado, at the Mile High Perspective. Please, please, please give us a like, a follow, subscribe, a comment, whether it be good, bad, in between, whatever it is. We'd love to engage with you guys and have the conversation. Let us know if we can try a bourbon that you like and you want us to give a try and give a rating to. And remember, guys, you can reach out to us and get us at resotr@themilehighperspective.com or give us a phone call at
303-578-0263. Rings both of our phone numbers. And then obviously social media, you guys can find me, the Colorado Real Estate Guy, basically everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. It's Jameson Amorous. If you guys want to follow me on there, I don't know who uses LinkedIn, but
professionals.
Yeah. I am a professional, like 4 hours a day.
Right. Yeah. When it comes to real estate.
Exactly.
You can find me, That Lifting Agent, on Instagram, TikTok, Charlie Sardelli on Facebook and LinkedIn. And both of us would be more than happy to talk with you about anything. And I'm not gonna lie, I think our TikToks are pretty good.
Dude, I
think
love
the
it, man. I think
think
they're great.
The videos are pretty good.
Honestly,
it's pretty
I think they're
entertaining,
good.
right?
Yep, agreed.
You could also see my very beautiful girlfriend
There you go.
on my TikTok. She helps me with a lot of my videos.
True, they're
But-
fucking hilarious.
Yeah, shout out. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll catch you guys
Cheers.
later. Cheers.